Okay, so I'm here with my good buddy David Christenson. What's up, David?
The world, the sun, the sky,
All of
blood
that,
pressure.
blood
No.
pressure. And so we are here today to
Yeah.
talk about red lights, the art and creativity and science of innovation.
Yeah.
We're here to talk about the human body, the human cell, and how your personal creativity has lent itself to the world of, I guess, the healing arts
Right.
and to some degree sciences. So tell us a little bit about what Neurocare Pro is before we get into your background, please.
Well, Neurocare Pro is elite, what they call photobiomodulation or pulse light medical technology. The whole world knows it as red light, but red light was created for cosmetic, and over the last 30 years, it has come a long ways. We produce advanced medical equipment for medical practices and healers like you. I mean, we have a lot of non-medical practices buying our equipment, but we don't generally sell end users too much simply because it's not how we're based. But Neurocare Pro is an innovator. We produce elite systems, and everything we do is extremely advanced. We don't feel ordinary is in our vocation or in our future. Yeah.
So you do make, in my experience, I can say this, a superior product from my experience. I was using red light and near infrared and red and the traditional panels from day one. I was fortunate to have access to the
Yeah.
very early stage, all of that. So when I tried yours and I came back to, do you remember that? It was the experience around my hand. So I had an injury with my hand. They said I would have to have surgery in 18 weeks. And I put the Neurocare Pro system on my hand, and I've been using pain mitigation stuff for a very long time. I'd never felt anything like that. I put it on within minutes. The sensation in my hand was reduced to almost nothing, and I put my credit card down immediately, and I bought one.
Yeah, I remember that. It seems like about 2 years ago now. Is that
Right.
about
It
where
was
you?
only a year ago. It was a year ago.
Whew.
I know. But I began to use this and pioneer it
Yeah.
and got into the frequency aspect of it. So you do
Yeah.
build a very superior product, is what I can
Thank you.
say.
Yeah.
Talk to me about the frequency and light. And that just sounds like hippie stuff, but how does that actually work? What is the science of frequency and light at a cellular level?
Well, frequencies and everything in this world, light in particular, and there's a lot of modalities. You have your PIMF, pulse electric magnetic field, you have your sound, you have all different types of frequencies. Well, light is a different signature, but nevertheless, frequencies are frequencies. And our technology is based on what they call surface mounted diode technology. So the old technology is kind of like a 30-degree projection of the photons into the tissue. Ours is 120 degrees. So it is an extremely advanced permeation or penetration of photons into the cells. You know, forever people say, we don't even address it anymore simply because the question is just quite frankly silly. I heard that this is more powerful or that the panels are more powerful. Look, I could make my product so powerful, Sage, your eyebrows would melt for pennies on the dollar compared to what others do, because we are a manufacturer. Ours is extremely powerful, but it's spread out over the entire biosite, not so much what they call a coherent light. I don't want to burn your cells. I want to put the perfect amount of energy and permeate the cells into the tissue and create that physiological change. That's what we're going for here. We're not going for, it's like anything else. Does your house plant strive better in indirect or direct sun? Pretty easy to figure that out. Does the water evaporate in the shade or sun first? The sun. Okay, so you have a cell, you have a mitochondria. In there, you have something called a cytochrome C oxidase, and it's liquid. It's part of the mitochondria. So if I blast too much light into that cell, I'm essentially drying it up. Now, you can stack cell death for a while. Our human body has the ability to reproduce cells. But if you don't remove cellular waste when you create that damage, that's where the problem comes in. Neurocare Pro is based on the perfect formulation of frequencies, power, permeation, and we take a good look at what they call the refractive index.
Yep.
I have to bend light around cells, and if you don't understand the principles
Yep.
of the physics of that, well, then you're just throwing darts at a board with a blindfold on. And so everything we do or did is done on live patients. In fact, pre-COVID, we had a center in South Padre Island, Texas, and we literally dealt with 400 or 500 patients. Now, COVID has been bad for a lot of people. It's created a lot of trouble in our world. It's kind of changed society. For me personally, it's been pretty good. I mean, in terms of it gave me the ability to create an elite line at a time where I still had a really high level line, but it gave me that downtime to really take this technology to the next level. Now, I was involved years and years ago in the science, in the lab, creating the surface mounted diode technology. So I wasn't new to it, but I never actually took it into a medical product. And so Neurocare Pro was born to make our products elite. Now, we have been elite for a good part of a decade, but we need to maintain that position. So we are constantly advancing the technology.
That's why we met, really, was the eliteness. That's why we get along.
Yeah, there's too much ordinary in this world. If it's not extraordinary, meaning I can't throw a dead cat over my shoulder, all due respect to the cat lovers, and not find ordinary. I want extraordinary. I mean, that's kind of how I think we're both built. We need to do things at a high level. And that's because I think society deserves it. They deserve people who actually care.
Come on.
Yeah, I mean, they do.
Yeah.
It's not all about money. I mean, you can hear, I mean, I just was with a group who does a lot of the, and some of their friends, and we won't put their names on the air, but they do a lot of the documentaries, and they're doing a lot of the social, the mini clips and the TikToks, or I guess they call them shorts on YouTube. And everything is about money based. I don't really, be honest with you, I don't really look at it about how much money can be made. I look at how many lives can I impact. And if you don't take that and put that in the forefront of your direction, then you're really about money, and then those decisions are compromised.
Yes.
I don't care about money. I mean, I don't want to make it sound like that, because I'm not a nonprofit, but in the same token, it's all about efficacy.
Yeah.
And I start there on every product.
Well, you're an artist. Can we go back real quick as an artist?
Sure.
Because I happen to know that you had an art reproduction business and you were in the publishing industry.
You do your homework well.
Very, very creative. So as a highly creative individual, can we go back to, because you said, well, frequency isn't everything. And that's true. And some of the people watching are going to know that. Some of the people are going to be like, what the holy actual, dude? What can we walk that back and just talk to me about why you put frequency in your red lights? And I've heard one or two other people dinkusing around with it, but you pioneered it. Talk to me about that.
If you look at simple biochemistry or biophysics, everything has a frequency. I mean, cells operate under a particular frequency. So if you have a neurological or a neuropathic disorder, you have loss of blood flow. That's a medical fact, and likely inflammation. Well, if you take the principles of biochemistry, that water absorbs all frequencies, which it does. And we can show you, the Emoto frozen water experiments. There's enough evidence that your listeners should understand that fairly easy. Obviously, you have a high level of intelligence of people listening to you. So if you're, principally speaking, you hydrate properly and you're 70% water, then I guess one could assume or presume that you're absorbing all frequencies. If you go back 100 years ago, Royal Rife, who some of your listeners may know who he is, he was blowing up cancer cells with a resonant plasma frequencies. And the interesting thing is they discredited him because they thought that cancer was created from a monomorphic. One virus created a cancer cell. It's polymorphic, more than one. But my point is, you can go back and look at cancer and really any disease. If you don't clear the frequencies that are being stored in your cells, you can choose your own modality, whatever your belief system is. Mine happens to be light therapy at a high level. But if you can get those frequencies operating under the frequency and make your body all in line with the frequencies that each system is supposed to be operating with, you don't get sick. I haven't been sick well, I don't want to date myself, but it's been more than 4 decades. I don't take aspirin. I don't take anything. Pretty much water is kind of my go-to drink, and I don't really believe in allopathics or any of that stuff. So my point is, the reason those frequencies are in the lights, and you can literally go in and clear frequencies. Now, I've showed you the BioWell. I think that early on I did the BioWell. Our technology is becoming so advanced, I can literally go in from a quantum standpoint. I can capture your bio frequencies, or your chakra frequencies, I should say, and I can convert those to bioneural beats, and then I can convert them to musical tones, put them into an MP3 player that's on my controller, and I
conveniently.
Yeah, I know, right? And I can use your own frequencies to heal your body. In fact, you met Stephanie and a bunch of those other brand ambassadors. When they listened to their frequencies, a couple of them cried. And the reason it is because it's like you're going home. Those frequencies exist in your body. Mm-hmm. That is your workings of your chakras, and we all understand chakras. And so, yeah, I mean, if you project frequent light into the cells at the right frequency, at the right amount of permeation, and they call it joules, which is essentially power times time equals joules, and that's how light is measured. If you pulse it in at the right frequencies and know where to put it, how long to put it, physiological changes take place, and that's hard to deny. Our results are off the charts. Yeah.
I gotta stop you because it's genius and I want to listen forever. But you just said chakras, and we all know what those are.
Yeah.
Hands up, everybody. If you don't know what a chakra is, because it sounds woo and weird or whatever the holy actual, talk to me about how a guy like you, using creative light application, sound, science, just threw out a chakra in there, because that doesn't seem contiguous. Talk to me about the energy, the frequency, and what is a chakra? How does it work for people who have no idea or have only heard of it in a spiritual or religious perspective, but don't understand the energetics of it? Can you just make that bridge for me?
Yeah, I mean, I don't want to drill down too deep, but if you look at the solfeggio tones, which are musical tones.
Solfeggio.
And they are musical tones used for healing. 5 of the 7 chakras are actually solfeggio tones. So there's people a lot smarter than me that figured out that the chakra frequencies are healing frequencies.
Yep.
And you have your third eye, and they go down in a line. Mm-hmm. And when I do the BioWell testing, if you're not familiar with the BioWell, we don't sell it. I just studied with the guy who created it, named Konstantin Kordakov. And if you want to see an interesting documentary that'll talk a little bit more about it, it's called The Secret of Water. Well, that scientist I studied with in Orlando, I want to say in January of last year, but I'm kind of losing track of time. It's moving so quick. But yeah, it's amazing what you can actually look at. But when you really get frequency, Sage, and you really understand, and you do is probably better than most of the people we speak with at Neurocare Pro, when you really get it and you understand that your body operates on frequencies, and you know how to get them back in line, so your whole body is operating at one frequency or multiple frequencies where each system belongs, you don't have health problems. That's really what it boils down to. So, I've been studying this, and now I actually have the passion, because I look at the DNA sequencing, the epigenomes, the serotonins. So if you understand the basic principles of that, you can actually really understand that there's people out there, and I'm certainly not one of those people, who can literally stop aging in its tracks, simply because the epigenome reads the DNA. And when you pulse light into the DNA, you can actually kind of reconstruct it to a positive way if the right frequencies are in there. And we know there's some excellent DNA frequencies.
Amazing. Wow. Okay, so now we've covered chakras, energetics, frequency, and light.
Yeah.
We've touched on your creative past.
Yeah.
How does your past as a creative and your current present as a creative serve this moving forward, pushing the needle, right? You're literally evolving the capacity for humanity to heal itself with some stuff that's been badly, I'd say, maligned and just pushed outside. Since we're not getting into it, and I'm not qualified to have an opinion on any of this other than as an artist, can you talk to me a little bit as an artist and about the healing arts and how people in the future, if we do decide to actually sell, if I want to sell this thing, I want everyone knowing from the very beginning that there's no claim to treat, prevent, diagnose, or cure. I'm speaking as an artist. And as an artist, I have sovereignty and the free ability to take a technology that is put out by someone like David as an artist that traditionally would go to a doctor and be used in a very specific healing modality, while abiding by those stringent principles that you've set up to maintain only benefit. I'm pretty able to freely wheel and deal and put people on the vibe bed here. You can't really see it, but there's a vibe right there. It's a sound delivery device. And so we can put sound, all of that. Let's talk about that now for a few minutes from the perspective of an artist.
Well, essentially, so in terms of my background, I mean, if you go back, I've been studying physics since I was 10 years old, all the greats. And we won't get into, those, we'd be here a little bit too long. And so between biochemistry and physics, that was pretty much all of my teens into my early 20s. And then I decided that I wanted to see other parts of the world and went into other areas, sort of like testing the publishing industry, art reproduction. Once I got that, fast-paced life and being around, cover girls and parties and, trying to figure out, what the world was about outside of science, kind of went back to science because that's kind of where, that's my identity. That's sort of like, got a hold of me at a very young age. But like anything else, we all have to explore what the world is. And so I went into a line of product that were adaptogens. So I dealt with formulas that were neurological, sleeping. I mean, I had 17 formulas. I won awards for them, and they were all herbal. And if you look at, one of the things that always yanked my chain is that drug companies, I don't know if you know this, that all drugs, all pharmaceuticals are made from herbs. Just about every one of them. I think 67,000 is the amount of herbs that they use. They take out the second metabolites, they take the actives, and then they synthesize it. So what nature gave us was the second metabolites. That's what nature wanted us to have in on top of the healing ability. So I created a line of what they call adaptogens, which means it's an herb that your body can absorb, but it'll absorb exactly what it needs and put it exactly where your serotonin want it, which is that sort of like it's a information release. It's an information release system for your DNA. So we got into that technology, and then that kind of went where it went. And then I had some of my own neurological problems as an ex-boxer. Had a fair share of concussions, and so
had to hit some stuff. And
I was a lousy ice skater as a kid. I don't think you should put blades or wheels on shoes. And those that are into rollerblading, my apologies. I kind of like a flat surface when I walk. And so my brain had a bit of a issue, and I was playing with light since 2002, but not on a serious note. I didn't really getting into it because I was into the formulations at that point. Spent a lot of times in labs and did a lot of like pH vetting at some of our finer institutions. And then I started, when I had my neurological issues, I thought, well, let me try light therapy. And for a while, I didn't think it was the light. I thought it was my formulas. And maybe that was an ego-driven decision or conclusion. And then all of a sudden, I started putting the formulas down and started treating purely with light, and started with toys. So I became a victim, an advocate, started advancing, and I noticed a lot of things that were happening in my body. My darkness went away. My passion for life came back. I became allergic to fluorescent lights at that time. I couldn't. Wow. If I was in a Costco or anything like that, I would have to leave just because I would go into a panic thing. Whatever it triggered in my brain, it was not a comfortable position. And so I started noticing that although I don't speak Russian very well anymore, and I've never spoke a lot of Spanish or Chinese, but I had enough where I could go to that country and communicate. And that was all gone. Hundreds of thousands of studies dissipated. And so I was really kind of like, okay, let me figure this out. So I started advancing the lights. I got to the point where I was actually coming back to the old David, not where I wanted to be, but about, dramatically different than that dark place that the neurological issues put me. Then the industry started realizing that this guy was not ordinary and started offering me their positions. I was offered by two of the incumbents that some of your listeners may know. They're actually some of them that pioneered a lot of this. And they wanted me to, one of them wanted me to take the ownership position, and the other one wanted me to be a CEO.
It happens quick, right? You go from like Outlander and Outlaw and crazy and scary, Edward Scissorhands, no one wants to talk to you. Suddenly you're an effing genius and you're ready to go.
And so I became, a big, huge advocate, and they were sort of dysfunctional and their products were sort of ordinary. And I had a hard time getting involved with that. So I decided I could do this on my own. And that's when advanced neurocare was developed, lasers and LED lights. And then that went away because I thought LED is better than laser. I found it to be better. Many believe it's the next generation for lots of reasons.
Information.
Yeah. And so then I started another brand called Neurocare Systems, which was my first generation. In fact, you have some of that, I believe.
I do.
Yeah.
It's the reason I actually started to get deep in REM sleep again.
Yeah.
I'm not even kidding. First time I used it. That's a great story.
Yeah.
We'll get into that some other time. I'll keep the narrative going, but let's go back and revisit Gen 1 and what happens. And blue light, you're supposed to be bad for sleep.
Well, it depends on the kind of blue light. I mean, they put filters on sunglasses and computer screens. That's a different blue light. People think blue is blue, red is red, near infrared is near infrared. Okay, to some degree, that's true. But if you really understand the medical application of light therapy, I mean, that's like saying that an LED Christmas light I can wrap around my head, but it's LED light, Sage. It's got red, blue. I mean, why would
what's wrong with you? Yeah.
So it's not just the light. It's the application of the light. And when gallium, so
go back to you were saying first gen, then pulse Neurocare.
So then the first gen was so far ahead of everybody else. The prices, when those systems that you saw, those were like $8-9 grand. And I thought, this can't be real, right? I got to bring this price down. So I doubled, or actually back then, probably a little bit closer to triple the quality of everybody else. Started playing with all my algorithms and firmware and really started making my pulse rates completely different, because all you had is the blind leading the blind back then.
Right.
Everybody would say, oh, here's what this guy's doing. Well, let me do the same thing. I know they used to call it Me Too's now, or back then. Now I know Me Too means something different.
Right.
They
were also RANs.
Right. Yeah. So then that line did exceptionally well. And then COVID hit, and I thought, okay, this is my time to create something super special. Because I didn't know that I had 2 or 3 years, but that's kind of what we all had. So I jumped in, had to do, I had all my science, I had, all my formulations ready to go. And the first run I actually pulled off the market, which I don't know if I told you this, it was not good enough. It was not where
you did tell me that. Yes.
Yeah, it had to be at a special rate. And now there was a lot of people who weren't happy about that decision, and particularly my manufacturer partners, right? But I don't care. It's not about them. It's about these people who are buying my systems.
Yes.
Because that's who my loyalty's to, not to the clowns on the other side.
Preach.
Yeah. So then the new system came out, and you got your hands on it. And it's elite.
Night and day.
Yeah. That is
night and day. I personally, let me just tell you, I avoided surgery in 18 weeks, people. 18 weeks recovery. That's what they said. Wow. Surgery in 18 weeks. Now, I had other interventions. I've had V cells. I've had PEMF. I shot some peptides in my finger. That hurt. That sucked. Was not fun. The best treatment I've had and still have, because these joints act up. Look at my hands.
Yeah.
That is not a normal finger. It's not supposed to bend that direction. It's because some stuff was snapped. I had to hit some things, jump out of some stuff and hit some other stuff.
Right.
And everything snapped early. Those lights make things that hurt not hurt. That's my claim. It's not actually science, and it can't be verified by anyone other than me. It did hurt, and it doesn't hurt now. But anyone who knows me knows that I will go to the end of the earth. I will stick a stack of greasy BBs up my ass. If somebody tells me this is going to help your pain, I'm in. So I've tried everything, and a lot of stuff gets thrown away or left in the closet. I've carried those lights up and down the eastern seaboard. I've been in and out of every motel on the roadside, every airport. I've taken them internationally. I don't move without those lights.
Yeah.
Tell me why. Why does that work? And then I think we'll wrap it up, because we'll do more of these conversations when it's interesting. Why does all of that, the art, the science, and all of it, have such a profound effect on pain and discomfort when you need it most?
Well, I mean, here's the reality of it. You get the right pulse rates and the right permeation into the cells. Pain is caused by inflammation compromising the sensory nerves. Okay.
Say that again. Pain is caused by
inflammation compromising sensory nerves. Sensory nerves are exactly what they sound like. They sense pain. You burn yourself on a stove, it's immediate. It's an immediate electrical impulse. And so when I can remove it, we know that blood flow reduces inflammation and thus pain. So when you get that inflammation out of the body, and listen, inflammation is either the cause or the symptom of virtually everything in a human body. It's so devastating to human tissue. So reduce the inflammation, reduce the pain. And your cells, so I can increase the blood flow to any biosite. Your listeners heard of something called Viagra. Well, we all know what it does. We certainly don't need to speak about that one. I took it once. I put an S on my shirt and bought a cape and everything. And so it has a precursor called sildenafil, and it creates nitric oxide. It's a vasodilator. Yep. Well, when I increase blood flow to a biosite, your body knows what to do with the blood. I bring more nourishment, glucose, nutrients, and here's one of the important parts. I remove cellular waste. And so when I reduce that inflammation, I give that body the ability to initiate its own healing ability. And I get the body's frequencies to start working with the body instead of against the body. And that's what this therapy does. And ours is specific to that exact formulation.
That is outstanding behavior. Thank you, David. Listen, everybody, this is just the very first in a series of conversations that I'm going to have, hopefully with David, about this particular system. So how to use light and sound to treat your cells, I guess, is going to tune your cells. I'm trying to think of a way. It's tuning cellular behavior. Exactly, like you tune an instrument, like you tune a violin, like you tune your voice, you practice. And it's giving your body, I call them digiceuticals. It's an electromagnetic.
Did you patent that? Or
I didn't patent it, no, but I've been using it for over 6 years now. I mean, I remember I got on this, for people who don't know, I bought my Livo 2 days after Dave Asprey and about 2 years before Ben Greenfield. I've been working with Juvent, Livo 2, PEMF. We have a series of calls also on this YouTube channel, if you haven't checked them out, with Dr. Bob Dennis, the inventor of PEMF. And now we're talking to the inventor of the most devastatingly effective, incredibly potent and powerful system of light and sound and artistry that I've ever come across for healing. So that's a little bit of the background. I have a bunch of tools, but not every tool is a tool that I travel with and cling to like a little baby orangutan, like to its mom. Like I'm just clung to the leg of Neurocare Pro wherever I go. So that's it for now. We're going to do more of this later. Thank you, David. Is there anything you want to say to the people before we go?
No, thanks for listening.
All right. We'll see you guys on the other side. Have a great day.